In this tutorial, I'd like to talk about HTML tables. And tables are fairly simple, and you won't use them a whole lot. It used to be that tables were used for the layout of your page. This is probably about 20 years ago, and then gradually CSS took over with division tags and layout, and then getting into responsive design. But everyone used to use tables, and now they're sort of relegated to data display. So if you need to put content like this into your CSS layout, that's really the best use of tables right now. So you do use them occasionally, and I'll show you maybe if you took this site that we've been working on, the CSS layout site, and you say, well, the layout's okay. It's a pretty good start. I can start adding in images, but then you think, well, there's a column here, and I actually need to display some data inside of this column, or maybe some thumbnails and image inside of this. So a lot of times the data inside of a division tag or an HTML sectional element, that could be a place for an HTML table. So it's just another way for you to display your data. And again, it's something that you may or may not use depending on how much content you have. But let's say for this demonstration that instead of this text right here just sitting inside of this division tag, we want to have a small table and see kind of how that displays and works. So I'll just use the code here. The site that goes with the tutorial here is under the HTML tutorial on W3 Schools. Just click on HTML tables and just work through this one if you haven't already, and it should be pretty straightforward. There's not a lot to it. I mean, this table right here that you see, this is one we can put into our CSS layout. Starts with the table tag. You'll have TR, which is a table row. So just think of that as one row across. Inside of that row, you'll have cells, and those are designated with either the TH or the TD tag. TH stands for table header. That means whatever text you put in there will be centered and bold. And then TD is just standard type. Now, you probably figured out by now that most anything you put in your HTML can have a CSS rule or style applied to it. So some of the examples here you'll see they do have some CSS to change the look of the table with the borders and the backgrounds, things like that. But just for tutorial purposes here, let's just take this tag or this table and copy this. And then what you want to do is determine where should that go in your HTML. So let me go back to my index file, and I want to look for my column that's on the left-hand side. So I've got a division class called row, and inside of that row, so there's the opening division class row, and then here's the closing tag right down. Actually, this is the closing tag for that, and then inside of that I have two columns. Here's one column and here's two columns. So you don't want to replace the division tag, you want your table to actually go inside of that division tag. So maybe instead of having this H2 in a paragraph, it might work better there to put a table. So I'll just take this code and I'll just delete that, make some space here so I can see it a little better, and then I'll just paste in that code. So there's a table inside of a division tag. Now one thing you'll notice here, there's only one style on here. It's the width of 100%, and that's a good idea to put a percentage on there. That means it will stretch and shrink based on the size of whatever screen you're working on, your user has. So I'll do a file save. I'll come over here and I'll refresh it, and now you can see I have a table inside of that. Now I could apply a style to it if I wanted so that I could see it a little bit better. So let's do that here. I'll go back, and I believe there is one that has a style on it, this first one here. Let me go into the try it yourself. So this has the style for the table in the actual HTML. But if we wanted to do this, we could put it in the styles.css, and that means that every table would have this style applied to it. So you'll see the table tag, and that has a style on it. You'll see the TD or TH tag as well, and you'll see a background color. So let's just take this CSS right here and see what that does. If I copy this, so you say, well, where do I want to put that? Well, since we're trying to stick with all our CSS in an attached style sheet, it would be the styles.css right here. Okay, so let me scroll down to the bottom, make a little bit of space, and I'm just going to paste in that code. So again, this is just the CSS that pertains to the table tag. The TD, TH, or the TR tag just has some styles on there, like padding, text, background, borders, things like that. So I'll click File, Save, or Save All, back over here, and I'll refresh. And notice how that puts a nice little style on there. So you can see that this works pretty well. You can see it still fits into the responsive layout. So if you are designing your site and you get to a point where you say, well, I need to have a little more formatting for my content, whether it's thumbnail images or a larger image and text, how am I going to do that? Well, a lot of times you want to use this approach. You might want to even put in, if you had just one cell right here or one division tag, you could put a table inside of that that has an image on one side and text on the other. So point is that you are going to get to this point where you say, how do I lay my content out within the division tag within the CSS layout? And tables are one option for that. So that's all I really wanted to show you on this tutorial. Let me know if you have any questions, and you may use this at some point in a project, but it's one of those things that it doesn't get used as much as it used to. Everyone used it 15, 20 years ago, but you may not use it quite as much. But as you can see, it still comes in really handy for displaying your content within your CSS layout.